before. Dave, can you hear me? Please let me know. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. This is my very first live YouTube. I also am live on Facebook. So I've never done this before. This is going to be interesting. Can anyone let me know if they can hear me on Facebook, especially because I can get messages from people on Facebook. I'm not sure how it works on YouTube. I will find out. Anyway, yay. Thank you, Darla. So somebody said, yes, they can hear me. And it looks like this is rolling. So thank you for joining me. It is August 18th, 2019. And I am sitting in the Applegate where I live. It is beautiful here. And feeling very grateful that I can be here, that I'm alive, and that I'm healing. I am healing. And somebody messaged me today, bringing up a video that I did October of 2016, and it was a really painful video. And that person said that they see me now and they've seen that video and it helps them. And that is why I've done videos all along, is because if I can help one person maybe not go through some of the horrible things that I did, I will be very happy about that. So let me give you a little bit of background. So between 2010 and 2015, I had become unable to work due to an injury. I had already had multiple diagnoses of chronic pain issues as well. I had been diagnosed with depression and anxiety disorder. So I'd been working as a nurse in a very busy Salem hospital. And while things weren't perfect, they were going pretty well. I was, doing pretty well and feeling pretty good. Managing my pain with pain medications wasn't the best, but I was still functioning. I was still working. But then I got injured and became unable to work due to pain associated with that. I had a doctor try to give me oxycodone. I took it for 4 days and went, that's not for me. I did take they tried to give me OxyContin, pardon me. And I did take oxycodone at that time. I think I was on like 5 milligrams twice or 3 times a day as needed. But they were trying to give me 20 milligram OxyContin, and I couldn't handle that. I was, also at that time got, muscle relaxers. I was already on Effexor for anxiety disorder and depression. I already was taking, at that time I was taking Ativan. I'd been on Ativan or Xanax off and on since first dosed in 1985, when my third child died at the age of 4 days. Anyway, so I got to where I couldn't work, and things really deteriorated when that happened. And I kept getting prescribed more and more medications. And in 2015, I decided it was not working and I needed to taper off. So that was in 2015. And between 2015 and May of 2016, I'd stopped, my allergy meds and the muscle relaxers and some other less harsh meds. They still were harsh. They all came with side effects, but this was less harsh. So, and then I also was tapering down on the oxycodone. I had been taking, by that time in 2014, I was taking 60 to 90 milligrams of oxycodone a day. And I was taking 3 milligrams of Xanax a day. So I was tapering those down, just slowly cutting them down. And I was using cannabis as an adjunct to help that. And it seemed to be going pretty well. I was becoming more active. I still had really bad insomnia. I did still have pain, but I was doing better than I had been. So, I was like, hey, this is working. So in May of 2010, I had tapered down to where I was taking maybe 5 milligrams of oxycodone every other day or so, somewhere around there. I did not I did not keep track every day of what I was doing, but I kind of was watching it. I knew what I was doing. I was paying attention. I was being mindful about it. I wasn't just, cold turkey myself off. And anyway, I took my last oxycodone on May 10th of 2016. And from May 10th, so let me back up there a little bit too. So in 2016, I took over being a property manager for a property that had kind of fallen to the wayside and was trying to take care of that for somebody, for a place to live, as well as I was told that I would get a cut of any, what's the word I want? Profit that was made from selling things off the property, renting the property, and growing cannabis on the property. So between November of 2015 and when everything fell apart in August of 2016, I accomplished all those things. I cleaned that property. I had a big sale. I got the house rented. I got a cannabis grow on the property. But it came with a lot of, unfortunately, people who weren't really being forthright and who were playing on the fact that I was already disabled and kind of stuck where I was. And that's 3 years later, that hasn't changed. That the truth of that has not changed. So May 10th came, and I was doing okay, a little bit more irritable. But I wasn't biting anyone's head off. I wasn't acting out in any way. I was just trying to manage all these people I was dealing with, and there people in my family, my boss, also boyfriend, also property manager. I would complain to them about these issues that were going on that I was trying to deal with, but I wasn't out of control. But there was a lot of things I was dealing with, and I was irritable, and I wasn't sleeping well. And now in hindsight, I can say I probably wasn't thinking completely straight, because in withdrawals, you don't think straight. You just don't. So a whole bunch of things happened in May and June and the 1st of July. And, a lot of conflict, a little bit of gaslighting, a lot of shaming, and it was getting really uncomfortable. And I now understand a little better that I was in withdrawals, and that exacerbated all this other stuff, and not thinking clearly, having detoxed from Xanax from 3 milligrams daily to 1 milligram daily, or maybe even a little bit less than that. I decided to not refill my prescription. I wasn't thinking. It was very, I was in withdrawals from the opiates. I was dealing with a lot of emotions, a lot of conflict, a lot of personality clashes, a lot of lies, a lot of betrayal. So at this point in my life today, I would say that I would like to believe had some of the people that were involved not been behaving so badly themselves, maybe I would not have reacted so harshly, but I don't know that. But I will tell you that supposedly for people who were emotionally regulated, a lot of people weren't acting that way. um, so I jumped off on July 12th, and it was the same time I found out about benzo withdrawals, and it just all kind of, it got really silly there for a while because I just didn't even really know what I was doing. I was just so irritable with all the circumstances, coupled with withdrawals from the opiates, and then now I've jumped off benzos. And what ensued over the next few months, well, you just can't write this stuff. You just can't come up with this stuff. You can't make it up. It happened. And so that first week, I was pretty struggling. Still had only had one. Well, I'd had a few instances because I'd found out a lot of people had lied to me about things, and things weren't the way that I was told that they were going to be. And it left me feeling very vulnerable and scared. Also, as most people know, going through withdrawals, paranoia, fear, working in your limbic system, with your fight, flight, or fright mode, makes you just really irritable. So there'd been a few clashes. June 25th, I got really upset with someone, and I'd had one other instance with this. I was getting road rage, and I left where I was having dinner with my son and drove home on a 35 mile per hour high end, a 35 mile per hour road, a country road, and I drove 85 miles an hour and ended up flying through the forest. And amazingly, I'm still alive. I go by that place frequently. I see the tree that I crinkled the whole driver's side of that vehicle with. And had I been over another inch or two, I would have possibly died at that speed. I went home and I was so distraught, and feeling so out of control in that I didn't understand all my feelings. I didn't know what to do about all my feelings. I didn't know what to do about all these people that were making my life really challenging, even more so than it already was. And it felt very surreal. And I took a knife and I threw it at my foot and stabbed myself. I mean, bizarre. I've never done anything like that before. Never, never. But I can say now in hindsight, part of that was like I wanted someone to see what I was feeling inside, because by that time I was having, that internal akathisia, that internal quaking of my body. I was not sleeping at all. I was on high alert, like being in war, like being ready to fight for my life, because that's what it felt like. So I wasn't thinking very well. I just wasn't thinking very well. And so that happened June 25th. And then I got off, and then the Xanax July 12th. And 7 days later, I landed in the emergency room. And what did they do? But they gave me Ativan and told me to go home and sleep for 3 days. And told me not to drink so much water because I was very thirsty all the time. Strange thing. So I went home and I took the Ativan like a good patient and slept a couple days and then was kind of back at it. Things escalated on the property where I was. Nothing was what it was supposed to be. Nothing was the way it's supposed to be. Nothing. And it didn't make any sense. Nothing made any sense. And I can go back today and look at all my notes and look at everything, and it still doesn't make sense what all the other people were doing. I can look back and see what was going on with me, and I'm telling you about that now. So the more agitated I got and the more fearful and paranoid of all these people doing things, really, just trying to make my life miserable, truly. Hey, Ada. Hi. Oh, who's here? Hi, everybody. I'll try to watch both. So anyway, so that was July, and it just kind of progressed. And come August, things that were supposed to be happening that I kept being told were going to happen weren't happening. It became very apparent that I needed to figure out what to do, but I couldn't figure anything out. If I was in the mind that I'm in today and all that stuff was happening, I would have called some friends and said, someone needs to come get me out of here. I don't have a way to go. I had a beautiful fifth wheel that I loved, but I didn't have a way to haul it. I didn't have money. I didn't know where to go. I was invested in that property with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I didn't want to walk away from my cannabis plants were there. My belongings that I didn't know how to move were there. So all this was just like running through my head, all these things. Why are those people acting like that? Why are these people? Why isn't anybody hear what I'm trying to say? Why is everybody making things so crazy? Why can't I make sense of anything? I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck and I'm freaking out and my body doesn't work. I was really broken. By this point, I was really, really broken. So August 15th, the tenants were supposed to be gone. And that was supposedly not the people growing the cannabis. And that was a whole nother crazy making. But the tenants who had really become quite volatile in many ways, they were supposed to move on the 15th. Well, they didn't. And there was all these people I didn't know. Without them there, people were just ranting. Now, mind you, I'm on top of 50 acres. I'm up at the top of this hill by myself. And there's no one for me. At that point, everybody's pretty much against me. There's nobody for me. And I'm sitting up at that hill, all these random people just coming and hauling stuff away. And I don't know what's going on. And then they were there again the 16th. And then by the 17th, I cracked. I just cracked. That living back here, that intense fear and paranoia and PTSD had been triggered in ways I could never have imagined before. I knew I had PTSD, but I had never had it be triggered to the way that it was with this whole scenario where I was. And I cracked. I just cracked. I was on the phone with the property manager, my boyfriend. He wasn't listening. He was saying I had to go when he had told me I could stay. He was changing everything, crazy making, doing that gaslighting stuff, making it sound like I wasn't, but I still have my notes. So I know what's real and what's not. I never lost my ability to think. I just lost my ability to manage myself. It was like my body was doing and reacting, and I couldn't control it. I couldn't. I had gone into such a state of fear and rage and hurt and pain and lack of sleep and lack of support and lack of being able to even think that I wasn't thinking. I knew what I was doing, but I couldn't stop it. It was a very uncomfortable place to be. Extremely uncomfortable place to be. So I was, saying all kinds of things and probably making all kinds of threats. And I had been cutting, which I'd never done before. And I'd cut, and I wanted someone to understand how bad I hurt. And I was sending pictures of this to my then partner, uh, and and I wasn't getting a response at all, and it infuriated me. And so I started busting out windows. I said, here, you don't believe me, I'll show you that I really need some attention, and that you need to be here, and you need to be taking care of some of this problem that's going on. And I started breaking windows, which, again, kind of like driving crazy. That's never been part of my, I don't do those things. I don't want to be in trouble. I don't want to do things that are wrong or hurtful of myself or other people. This was very bizarre. So I broke out like eight windows in the house. There was nobody there. Wasn't hurting anybody, but I was breaking windows, and he was on the phone, and I was having him listen. And that continued to not go well. And I had become extraordinarily suicidal. And I will caution anybody that is triggered by discussion of suicide. But I'm going to talk about what happened, because it happened. And I'm being very vulnerable here. But I think people that are going through this need to see that you can be in that state that is just so awful, and you can get turned around. Okay. That's why I'm sharing this. So, but if you are triggered by suicidal talk of any kind, I say just take a break for maybe the next 5 minutes or so. So anyway, I had become extremely suicidal, and I knew exactly what I was going to do. And there was a tree, and my son had been using the tree to do pull-ups. There was a rope in it, and there was a box, and I got everything ready. And I cut off all my hair because I was going to use my hair as fire starter. And I was going to start a barrel of fuel that was at my feet on fire at the same time that I kicked the box out. And so there wouldn't be anything of me to find. That was my thought. That was my crazy, crazy thought at that time. I still, to this day, I'm not quite sure how I got off that box, but I do know that I sent a picture of me on that box, and that brought the police. And somehow I was able to convince them that I was okay. I don't know how, but I did that night. I convinced them that I was okay. And then I progressed to, they left, and I was calling family members. I was out of my mind. I was completely out of my mind. And I was just calling and raging and ranting and crying and begging for someone to understand and begging for someone to listen. And I was begging for help, but I didn't know how to ask for help because I didn't understand everything that was going on. Okay. I just knew I wasn't well, and I didn't know how to do anything different. Because if I would have done something different. I would have done a lot different. So later the next day, which would be today, 3 years ago, people kept coming to my door, and I had everything all locked up and shut up, and I had broken a guitar that I had inside. I had raged. I just had raged out of so much anger for not being heard and not being understood, and hurting so bad, and not able to stop this vibration and the noise and all the weird things happening. And so I got it in my head I was going to take off on foot. And I took a gallon of water, and I had a little red pouch, and in it I had $2,200 because I had earned some money from selling my cannabis card for someone to grow, and they gave me cash. That used to be something that was done. I got some medicine, but I also got some money because I was trying to figure out what I was doing, how to get out. So I had that cash. I had 2 of my grandmother's rings. I had a cannabis Bible, which was how to grow cannabis. I had my sunglasses and my phone, and I went off in the forest. And I had a 3-pronged hoe. That was my walking stick and was also going to be my weapon if I needed a weapon. I mean, it's kind of faceplant, you know. I mean, now it's just like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I wasn't thinking. I was just freaking out because my brain was so broken. And so I went hiking up the hill. And I could only hike so far because I was so tired and I was so upset and I was so scared and I was so sad. And I would walk and I would cry and I would walk and I would cry. And I sat up there for a long time, and I'm not sure why I decided to go back down. But I went back down, and I had Shasta with me. And just as I got around the corner, the police were there. And they told me to stop, and I didn't stop, so they drew their guns on me. And I was just like, seriously? Well, maybe I'll just jump over the cliff here. And they were like, don't make us shoot you. And I felt it at that moment that they might shoot me, which added to my PTSD. Yeah. So I threw all my stuff down, and I have to say they acted like they needed to punish me for behaving badly, and they handcuffed me and put me in a very hard seat in the back and hauled me away to the hospital. And the police officer actually wanted to take me to jail. And I remember parts of the conversation, but I also remember him telling me that my father and my brother were on the way. I was like, really? I don't see them ever. That's kind of odd. Okay. And we get to the hospital, and there's this kind of back and forth. They don't know what to do with me. And they decide to keep me because evidently my brother said that I should be committed for 72 hours. Okay. But yet they're there, but they don't come see me or talk to me. Nobody came to see me or talk to me. Nobody that I was telling how bad everything was, not a single one, came and said, let's see what's going on here. Let's get everybody to sit down for a minute and kind of be calm and cool. No, it wasn't like I was being bad. That's the way it was treated, was I was being bad. And I hadn't been bad until things got bad. But that wasn't all the time. It was this time. It was very confusing. It was a very confusing place to be. So they put me in the hospital, and I was angry. Oh, was I mad. So I refused to talk. I refused to drink. I refused to eat for about 36 hours. I wouldn't answer any questions. I was angry. And then finally a social worker came in, and he said, I think you're really upset. I think you're really mad. And I just looked at him, you think so? And I started talking to him about what was going on. And I had already seen the papers. And then I finally said to him, I said, I would like some help. but I don't really want to have a bunch of medications. And he says, well, let's just get you in here and settled. Well, what happens? I get put in the psychiatric unit, and immediately they start me on meds. And all I'd been on was Effexor and cannabis at that point for almost 35 days. And they increased my Effexor. They did Seroquel, Remeron, Clonidine. Then they decided the Seroquel wasn't working. They tried Ativan again. They gave me an Ambien. They gave me Benadryl. They gave me melatonin. And and it's 4 a.m. and I'm walking the halls just like akathisia to the max. And the nurses are like, you should be out cold. And I'm like, this is how I've been for years. The more I take of this stuff, the worse it is. And they finally released me after 12 days. And my friend, the lady where I live on her property, oh yeah, it was not good. So she came and got me to take me back to my trailer. And I had conversed with the property owner. I was going to go get my stuff. I was going to clean up. I was going to take my 30 days and try to get out of there. I was going to pay for the windows that I broke, the car that I wrecked. I had the money. I was going to just do it and use the rest to figure out a place to go. And I pull up, and my trailer had been broken into and hauled to the bottom of the property. And all my other stuff was up at the top of the property, and I couldn't get it. And the people who were running the cannabis grow were up there cleaning up the broken glass, and they had taken over even before I left. So it was very apparent that this was all part of the plan to get me out of there, because these people were taking over. And at least to this day, that's the way it appeared, very much so. And they are who broke into my trailer. My trailer was locked. I have witnesses that it was locked. They broke into it. The police knew they broke into it. I even had a message from the police officer telling me that they had gone in and put stuff in it. But yet the police didn't want to help me, because when I called to make a complaint about them breaking into my trailer, he said, no one broke into your trailer and don't ever call me again. That's what the police officer said. It's on my phone. Just, the demeaning and shaming and demoralizing of me just went on and on and on and on. So, of course, that triggered me to just freak out again. And like 5 days later, I went back up to the property and broke the fence and drove my truck through the cannabis field, because I had someone meet me with a gun to my head when I was being told that I could go get my things. And there had been all these phone calls. Nobody still was listening. I was sleeping in my truck. I was very, very sick. I wanted to get my belongings. I wanted to be treated like a human being. I wanted to be shown some respect for my property and the work that I had done, and I was getting none of that. And so, like I said, I drove through the fence, went up there, was met with a gun to my head, and proceeded to drive through the pop field. And that brought the police again. But this time, they said, yeah, we're not going to do this with you again. You're going to a different county. And they just took me to another county and dropped me on the side of the road at 11 o'clock at night. I mean, this is what you do to people who are suffering. You just drop them on the side of the road with a suitcase. They gave me 10 minutes to get stuff in a suitcase. They said, get what you want. You're never coming back here again. That's what the police said. Go to your trailer, get what you want, but you're never coming back here again. That was my home. And legally, none of those people could do the things that they were doing. There was no documentation saying that I had been told I had to move, nothing. And so just because I was mentally ill at that time and being very, very sick, um, I was treated like a second-class citizen with no rights. None. No rights. Excuse me. Are y'all still with me? I think I've lost a few. Some have come and gone. Anyway, so I ended up being dropped off in town. I got a motel and proceeded to drink, which hadn't ever really been an issue for me. Seriously, I'd like a glass of wine or two, but I was drinking like a bottle or two a day or a 6-pack a day, which for me was a lot, but my body was craving it. And I was very, very suicidal, and I was cutting, and I was just in a motel room, not sure where to go, what to do, how to talk to people. I didn't know how to talk to anybody. I didn't know how to have a conversation because nobody was hearing what was really going on with me, or that's how it felt. Thanks, Darla. It felt like I just couldn't make anyone see that I really needed some TLC. I needed a safe space. I needed someone to cook food for me. I needed to be quiet. I needed to have someone say that the things that I was saying were what was happening, instead of trying to tell me why they weren't, or make up some other crazy story, or say it was my fault when they hadn't been there and didn't know what was going on. So yeah, I had 5 days, 4 or 5 days, and a friend, I was on the phone with a few friends, but very suicidal. And someone finally found me at the park one day and said, I think it's time for you to go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital and said, I'm not well. I don't know what to do. Told them that, I'd been drinking. This isn't my usual. So they went straight to, oh, you've been down in the toilet forever, and you've got a long road to get back up. And, this is and I'm just like, what are you talking about? Well, it's rough when you're an addict. And I'm just like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So I got put in a treatment facility, which is also a mental health holding place, and treated like I was an alcoholic and an addict. I was trying to talk to the nurse about that I didn't sleep and that I'd come off these meds and I really needed to sleep, and I wanted to just look at one of the drug books, like I used to use for nursing, and I was trying to tell him, I said, maybe there's something that'll help, because I still wasn't getting that nothing was going to help this. And I'm like, maybe there's something, maybe this. And he goes, God, you're just a drug seeker. And I was like, whoa, what? And he's like, you need to just figure it out. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just have been struggling for years, and I don't sleep, and this is miserable. And I came off these meds and it's worse. And he goes, well, no one made you take all that. You did it on your own. And I was just like, I was following my doctor's orders. I was just trying to do, I would tell the doctor what was going on with me. I was trying to get to where I could work again. I wasn't taking them wrongly. I wasn't doing anything. Again, I just was, PTSD being triggered while I was in there with the way that the staff was treating me. It was really awful. It was awful. Well, I had, not talking smart, not knowing where I was going, being in fear, being angry, being upset with so many people for treating me so badly. It still blows my mind how I was treated, because all those people I was really good to. All those people, I was good to them. And I still am not quite sure how all that worked. But when I got out, while I had been in there, I tried talking to family a couple times and it just never went well. Um, it just didn't. They just, they didn't get it. They didn't get it. And I get that. I get that now. I understand because I didn't get it. Um, but it felt very lonely. And I didn't feel like I was ever going to even live through it. And I said all kinds of crazy things, because I was angry, because I was acting out, because I wasn't emotionally regulated, because my body was freaking out, because had akathisia, because I never slept. And I had said, do whatever you want with my stuff. I'm going to die anyway. Do whatever you want. I'm never going to have it again. So when I got out of the hospital, all my stuff was gone. They'd sold my trailer. They'd taken my stuff to Goodwill or to the dump. And there was a couple totes that got hauled away. And I had my suitcase. I know I behaved badly. I know I did. But I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how else to be. I wasn't in control. My central nervous system and my processing centers were in the most intense fight, flight, fright mode that you can imagine. I was at war. That's what it felt like. I was at war. I was going to die. I was going to die. But I didn't die. I didn't die. From that time, 3 years ago, I have logged a lot of hours hurting, feeling lonely, struggling with symptoms, figuring out where I'm going to be next. I've been homeless a lot of it. Thank God for a few people that gave me their couch, gave me an opportunity, even if they ended up not being so nice in the end. I had a lot of that. I've learned, unfortunately, there are people out there that even though I've been really sick, I still have somehow always been able to pull together a few hours a week to make it so that I could have a place to stay. But a lot of people, unfortunately, if you're sick, and they think that they can take advantage of you because you don't have anywhere else to go. And so they kind of are demeaning to you. And, they come across at first like they're really doing you a big favor. And then it's, okay, how can we, cash in on somebody here who's at our beck and call because they don't have anywhere else to go. I had that happen a few times too. A lot of people have not understood any of this. I didn't understand it very well for a long time. Do I wish that I could have done things different? Oh gosh, yes. If it was today with the tools that I have today and the connection with my true self that I have today, since I'm not medicated and I'm really in the world and I feel feelings, true feelings, and they aren't altered, and I'm present every day. Yeah, I do things a lot different. But I didn't have those things then. And instead of really being helped and someone coming up alongside me and saying, man, let's give you a break here, because that's what I needed. I really needed a break. Instead, it was work harder, try harder, figure it out. I did figure it out. I have been figuring it out. I had some really kind people along the way that have helped. I've worked, even though it's been a little bit here and a little bit there. I've pushed myself because there was nobody. If I wouldn't, God, mosquitoes are getting me. If I would not have, blown leaves and cleaned up on that property that I was doing, if I wouldn't have done that 6 or 8 hours a week, I don't know where I would have gone. And for me, I couldn't go to the streets. I couldn't. I knew with my emotions, the way they were, and my PTSD, the way that it was, if I was on the streets, either I would have hurt somebody or I would have hurt me. So, I needed to be where I'm at. I needed to be back in nature because this is the place that I can heal. But I've had to pull it together, even in the sickest of times. And I will tell you, man, some DP and DR while I was doing these chores, it was hard. And I guess I just ran out of time, or it looks like I might be running out of time. Oh, maybe not. I don't understand the YouTube. Sorry, trying to figure this both out. Anyway, yeah, this is kind of a big deal today. I mean, where I am now compared to there, it's light years apart. It's just light years apart. Am I fully healed? As I said on my most recent video, no, I still have symptoms. But it's okay. It's better. It's better. And I'm better, and I'm getting better. And the things that used to get at me don't get at me. I have learned how to have boundaries, and I can maintain them pretty well. I respect other people, but I also can just turn and walk away if they aren't respecting me. I can't force anyone to respect me. I've learned that in life. You can't, demand that they respect you. It doesn't work that way. But if people are going to be disrespectful, I can certainly walk away and just not have those people in my life or in my environment. And that's what I do today. I if I get a little, zing of irritability, I take a couple breaths, figure out why did I feel irritable about that? What got me? But those were some scary times. Scariest time of my entire life. The last 3 years, the last 3.5 years have been the scariest, hardest, most enlightening, most revealing of anything I've ever experienced. So I don't know if anyone's going to get anything out of this, but I am, even since last year at this time, I'm so much better. I mean, last year when stuff about what was happening at that time would come into my feed on Facebook, on my memories, I'd be agitated. I'd be, oh, those sons of bitches. And now I was just like, well, they didn't understand. Yeah, they potentiated, they participated in some things that made it worse. But they also didn't understand what's going on. I didn't understand what's going on. Now, would they do things different? I don't know. I can't. Probably not. I haven't heard from any of those people. Don't need to either, to be honest. Those people that were on that property, that was just a big something I probably just got pulled into and I shouldn't have been there. And I don't do that anymore either. I'm not trying to help anybody. I took care of how many properties since I've been here in Southern Oregon? A lot of properties. I've taken care of a lot of properties, cleaning them up for other people. And I don't do that. I make things nice where I live. And I help people that, work with you and are real and realistic. But to think that I'm going to help somebody and therefore get a place for me to be because I'm helping them to build a business or whatever, I don't do that anymore. I take care of me. I've just been taking care of me. So that was my wild escapade. And, there was so many things that I said and did that just were so out of character and not how I would want to behave. but I just didn't know how to do it different at that time. I didn't know how to behave differently. I didn't know how to get my needs met. I didn't know how to be heard. I didn't know how to find love. All I was getting was people, it really felt like I was being abused and rejected and abandoned. And those are all triggers for PTSD for most people. So that limbic system really, when you can't be up here and you're working from back here, you aren't thinking, you're reacting. That's all you do. So it's been a real journey, and I hope someday that especially the professionals that I encountered during all of this, such as the police officers, treatment providers that were less than helpful and actually demeaning and shaming. I do hope that someday I'm able to go and face them and talk with them calmly and give them information and tell them how it felt and how it wasn't helpful, and maybe even give them some tips that could be more helpful. So that's it. I'm going to take a look here. Yes, those are llamas, and they are always curious. Thank you so much for everyone's kind words. Thank you all for watching. Any feedback, any questions, I'll be watching for the next day or two. If anyone wants to post some questions, if you have questions that you want to ask me in private, you can private message me on Facebook on my page, Deborah Mayberry. If anybody is inappropriate, I just block you. So I'm just saying that because this is all very public right now. So if you're inappropriate in any way, I just will block you, and that'll be it. So please be kind and show respect. If you ask questions, you'll be met with the same. And if this helps somebody, like I said, when I first started, somebody today showed me a video and they said, I watch this when I get really down and when I get really scared, and I see how bad you were and I see you now, and that helps me. And that's why I share. All right. So thank you. This has been kind of weird. I'll see how it all looks in the end. I don't know. Feedback is appreciated. I think I'm going to try to start doing some more videos. And maybe, tips and helps and different things like that. So we'll see. All right, everyone, have a good evening. Peace, peace, peace. All right, end stream and finish. Bye. Bye, sweetheart.